Hi, my name is Shella Immel with the Big Life Project. I started the project to help people focus on leading more meaningful, more joyful lives. My guest today is Kathy Pooler. She's a writer and retired nurse practitioner. On her blog, she writes, "My memoir is the story of how I climbed out of the abyss to find peace, joy, and healing in my life. How I learned to live life on my own terms." Today, Kathy's talking with us about opening possibilities in her life. Kathy, thanks for joining me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, Shelley.
I'm glad to have you. Alrighty, well, so I know that you have been through a lot of big changes, big times when you needed or wanted to open possibilities in your life. When we talk about opening possibilities, that sounds so nice and bright and shiny, and people think, oh yeah, I'm already good, but I'm going to do even more. But another really important time to do it is when things are looking pretty grim and you have to find a way forward. And I know you have stories. You're all about stories. I would like for you to share with us a story of a time when things were hard and you had to find a way forward with new possibilities, and maybe also a time when you were very excited about where you were going, but still it was new and different possibilities that were challenging to you.
Yes, well, I can tell you that it's the times that I've fallen into the abyss, if you will, that I have found the treasures that I needed, that I've gained perspective. When I was diagnosed with cancer, 1996, I was getting ready to go for a stem cell transplant in Boston. My diagnosis was uncertain. It was stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Above and below the diaphragm. Came completely out of the blue, it felt. But by the time non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is diagnosed, it's pretty far gone. And mine was. And so I figured, well, what more can I do but just pull out all stops and just believe with all my heart that I'm going to survive this, through my faith in God. And I started doing tangible things. Like before I went in for my transplant in Boston, I sat down and I sketched a picture of myself with hair, because I didn't have hair, and I had gained a lot of weight because of the medications, some prednisone. So of course I was very thin in this picture. Mm-hmm. And I sketched out an outfit that I wanted to be wearing. And I went and I ordered that outfit in the size that I wanted for down the road. Mm-hmm. I ordered it from LL Bean. I remember looking through the catalog. And then I sat and I wrote, there must have been about 12 positive visualizations. Dancing at my friend's wedding. Dancing at my niece's wedding with hair. I didn't have hair at my friend's wedding, but I got a fancy hat. Taking the plane to visit friends in Wisconsin and Missouri. And I had a journal, and I just wrote these things, and I just started visualizing myself being well. And every single thing on my list. I'm a great list person, to do, so you can check off. I was able to check off every single item on my list. And it's not that making the list made it happen. It's just that I was able to tap into some positive energy at a time when I really needed it. Mm-hmm. And I was able to do it in a tangible way, that I could see it. I could see the sketch of myself. I could visualize in my mind, okay, I wanted to wear those blue shorts and that red gingham shirt, and I wanted to have my hair back, and I wanted to be thinner, and I wanted all these things, and I wanted to go back to work, and it happened. So
I love that you bought the outfit, Kathy.
I did. It's like I'm taking a huge leap of faith here, but I'm going to wear this size by such and such a time. Mm-hmm. And some of it I had no control over because of the side effects of the meds. But as soon as I was off the medications, then the weight came off. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Also, I know that you've also had well, not that long ago, you retired, which is another big time of change and a new time of possibilities where people sometimes find themselves sort of lost. You know, they have to find new things, literally new things to do and new identities for themselves. Tell us a little bit about that transition and how you open possibilities, and which possibilities for yourself.
Okay. Well, first of all, I've been a nurse for 44 years, and nursing was not a job for me. It was a calling. And I thought of it as my best friend because it got me through. I mean, I was able to get decent jobs when I went through divorce, or even when I was undergoing cancer chemotherapy, I was able to do some work at home. Yeah, I mean, and so I could always fall back on nursing, so I just honored it and respected it as a best friend. So the thought of leaving it, I actually grieved. I grieved leaving it, and it was like anticipatory grieving because I started thinking about it a couple of years before I actually did it, and it was like a process where, well, let's say 80% of me wants to, 20%, 20% wants to, 80% doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a process. So by the time I got to the 80% is ready and 20% isn't, I said, I got to go for it. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, I've always loved writing. And I started taking classes while I was still working. So that I actually, by the time I retired, I had something to go to. It's not that I was leaving something I didn't like. It was like I had something better for myself at this point in my life to go to. Mm-hmm. But I'm so glad that I gave myself a chance to take my time in making this decision and letting go of my career. And for the 4 months before I left, I think I cried every day with my patients because we had such a bond. I've been with these people for years, and we developed a trust and a bond. And when I told them, you know, it was like a grieving process for both of us. And so there were a lot of hugs and a lot of tears, but I knew by the time I left, I knew it was time to hand over the mantle to somebody else. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then it was time for me to move into this next phase of my life. Yeah.
Okay. When you were going through cancer, I mean, as a nurse, having to accept that you had not just a minor ailment, but you had a very serious health issue to deal with, that's another time when really your identity is sort of changed. You can't nurse yourself. It doesn't work that way. Uh-huh. What did you do with that, Kathy? How did you do that?
That's a great question because, of course, once a nurse, always a nurse. And the nurse always is the caretaker and always jumps to help other people. So I got to tell you, it was a transition for me. No matter, even though I was very, very sick, mm-hmm. in my head, I was still the caregiver. So it was a conscious effort on my part to give into the fact, okay, I'm the patient. I need to let the nurses do their job. I need to just be the patient because that in itself was a full-time job. Mm-hmm. And so I finally got to the point where I told my family, don't tell the staff that I'm a nurse. Well, eventually it came out. But I remember one time looking up, I had all these IVs, and looking up, and I said, I have to recalibrate that machine. I said, no, patients don't do that. I have to relinquish my control over the nursing tasks, and I have to allow myself to be with the patient. So it took a while. It was a transition. But I finally got to the point where I said, okay, I need help, and I'm going to accept the help. When people come and they say, what can I do? I'm going to tell them, come on over and pray with me. Come on over. And, yeah, you want to bring dinner? Bring it on. Yeah. And I let people helped me. And, in a way that was a gift to them. They told me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank goodness you're letting me help you. So I got foot rubs. I got apple pies made for me. And the other thing I want to say is I received so many get well cards. I would get them on a daily basis. I have saved them all. They're in a huge heap, in a huge basket. And I just want to say that I never realized how important a written card is. I mean, I have sent many get well cards thinking, feeling helpless and feeling like it's not doing enough, and that's not true. It means the world when you get a card and you get those vibes from people who care. Mm-hmm. It really, really helps in your healing.
Kathy, I love so many things out of that story, and one of them is that you, instead of sealing yourself off, you let yourself deepen your connections with people, mm-hmm. Which is really important. And also this combination of surrendering, allowing other people to help, allowing other people to nurse you, but not just giving up all. Like you didn't you were very active in it. You did these visualizations. You made the effort to be in the patient role. You did all these things that were for yourself. So you were surrendering the things that you needed to surrender, but taking control and really committing to the things that you could do.
Well, yeah, and there's a mantra. There's a mantra because simultaneous to the cancer was my teenage young adult son's downward spiral with substance abuse. Mm-hmm. And it really had nothing to do with me. It was more to do with him, but it was simultaneous battle. And I really had to rely, like one day at a time. I'd go to Al-Anon, and they have like these quick little sayings, one day at a time, and let go and let God. And well, I found one. It was, pray to God, but keep rowing to shore. He knows it very well. Mm-hmm. Because I used to send that to him, but it was just as much for me as it was for him. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you do your part. I mean, you have your faith in your higher power, and you let go, but you still have to do your part. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So much better than sitting in the rowboat waiting for the wind to blow or waiting for the current to carry you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of the things you described, Kathy, even when they were really positive things you were going through, like at retirement, and certainly with your son and with cancer, some of those were really scary. And maybe they were thrilling scary, or maybe they were terrifying scary, but there was still fear as part of that. What did you do to get through the fear, to actually walk through the doors into your new possibilities? How did you do that?
My faith. My faith was, I relied on my higher power, who was God. Mm-hmm. And when I was in the emergency room the night that I was diagnosed, I knew something was terribly wrong. I had some shortness of breath, and they treated me for asthma, but I'm not a smoker. I've never had asthma. I knew it wasn't that. I knew it was something serious because I had some shortness of breath. And I was waiting for I had a CAT scan, and I walked in the hall, and I saw 4 doctors hovering over the X-ray viewer of my scan. So they were looking at something that was inside me. So I knew right then and there that it was serious. So I went back to my stretcher, and I just walked back and forth, and I just said, "Dear God, just give me the strength I need, because this is the battle of my life and for my life." And then I looked at the clock. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. And I said, well, I guess, I'm going to have to call in. At 7 o'clock, I have to call in to work.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's like, oh, by the way. But I did feel strength. I did feel strength, and from my faith, but I had to dig down deep because I had no choice. Mm-hmm. There was no choice in the matter. This was happening to me. I couldn't change it. I couldn't make it go away. So I had to rely on my faith, and my faith is what got me through, and it's what's gotten me through dealing with my son and dealing with anything in my life that has been difficult. And it has been strengthened. And each time I get out of the abyss of one thing, I feel stronger for the next thing that's going to happen. I love my faith.
Do you find, Kathy, that when you're not in the abyss, when life is just happening, that you live it differently because of those experiences? Do you make different choices? What's different?
Oh my gosh. I got to tell you, sometimes I sit and I remember, and not very often, but which is nice. Sometimes it's nice not to remember what it's like. But there was a time when I couldn't breathe because I had fluid in my lungs. And sometimes I say to myself, I don't even notice that I'm breathing. That's such a gift. It's such a gift to be able to breathe and not notice it. And to me, that's a gift to have that perspective. Because it puts everything else, as far as the small stuff in our life, now in the grand scheme of things, what's really important here. So, yes, I have a much greater respect for life because of what I've been through. Yeah.
Does it change your decisions about how you choose to spend your time?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Although I have to tell you, being a writer, you can get sucked down a rabbit hole really quickly.
Yeah.
We all know that. So I'm kind of trying to get that in balance. But overall, it's like if I have a chance to see somebody, a friend or family member, I'm going to drop everything and I'm going to do it. And I'm going to work around it to make it happen, because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. It's and that's a gift. It's very empowering and it's very freeing to be able to hone in on what's really important. My friend Judy, she died when she was 43 of breast cancer, my best friend. And she used to, when she was going through her struggle, she used to tell me about, you have to appreciate the gifts in each day. Every day has a gift. And if you have not been through a difficult time, I find you don't have as much of an appreciation, or I didn't until I went through difficult times. That, I look out today that we've had a blizzard in the Northeast. It's beautiful. It's a winter wonderland. And luckily I don't have to go anywhere today.
That does help.
I love that. I love being retired and not having to go to work on days like today.
So Kathy, we've kind of covered a lot of ground, but if there was your best advice for somebody, if somebody was wanting to open themselves to new possibilities in their life, either when they're happy and they just want to go the extra, or when they're in a dark place and they're struggling, what's your best advice for somebody?
We have one life to live. We don't know how long we have. We need to make the most of what we've got. We need to forgive ourselves if we need to. Forgiveness is incredibly empowering and healing. Forgive others, forgive ourselves. We need to dig down deep inside and find our own treasures and hang on to that for all you've got, and then just go for it. Go for it. For all you're worth, just do it.
Alrighty. On that beautiful note, Kathy, thank you for sharing your voice with the project. I appreciate that.
And
And
pleasure.
yeah, thanks for talking with us and for being part of the project.